Hello and welcome back to another live edition of the Chronicles of a Gooner. It's the Social Club.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.
Hello and welcome back to another live edition of the Chronicles of a Gooner. It's our Social Club show, and as ever, I'm joined by the brilliant Dan Luca. How are you, sir?
Yeah, just counting my winnings, to be fair. Good evening's work.
Winnings.
How are you
Counting
all? All right?
Winnings. All good, mate. All good. And also, big welcome to the brilliant Symeou Alavi. Did you just go and gel your hair between us having a little bit of a chat off air and now?
No, I just put some water in it.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
No.
How you doing, mate?
I'll get moaned at if I gel it this late, because then it goes on the pillow. Man, it's not worth it, is it?
Are you
Not
like me?
worth it.
Do you hate sleeping with gel in your hair? I find it so irritating.
I hate being moaned at that I've slept with gel in my hair and that the pillow's all dirty and I don't know how to use the washing machine. You know, it's a long story, but I know. Yeah.
Does it go all white and crumbly? Is that what
Yeah.
happens?
I need their Manscaped product, like a cloth for the hair, just to.
Not a bad shout. Probably a good time to tell you that this podcast is sponsored by manscaped.com. So if your forbidden forest is in need of some tender loving care, head over to manscaped.com. Enter our promo code, which is 90min20. That's 90min20 for those of you listening on the video. And you will get 20% off of your order, as well as free shipping. So please check it out. We thank Manscaped for their support of the podcast. On tonight's show, we're going to be talking a little bit about Arsenal's big cup final. That's what Mikel Arteta has described tomorrow's game as, a final. We're going to be touching on that. We're going to be discussing some of the Champions League results as well. We're going to be reflecting on our predictions and seeing how you guys did against us last week. And of course, we're going to be picking one of you in the live chat, one of our members from the live chat, to pick up the mantle this week. So Jashar, I can see you're in the chat, mate, and I know you gave the predictions last week, so hold tight and we're going to reveal all in a little bit. We're also going to be touching on the relegation battle a little bit. Might have a little bit of a gush over Leeds United because I've been really impressed with them this season. Dan rolls his eyes already. But yeah, looking forward to getting into it. Let's kick off with Arsenal. Of course, it's a huge game for Mikel Arteta's side. We brought you a more in-depth preview earlier on. I was joined by Jess Black, so head over on the channel and check that out. And it's also available, of course, in podcast format. And I'll also be bringing you my starting 11 and prediction on tomorrow's early show. That's Thursday's early show. We'll also be bringing you a live watch along of the game, as well as the review show after. So loads of content coming your way tomorrow. Huge game, as I've said, means everything to Arsenal now. And the question I want to put to you guys as non-Arsenal fans, and I think I always say this, but I think it's important sometimes to get that perspective as well, is let's say in the worst possible scenario, Dan, Arsenal get knocked out of the Europa League tomorrow. You're Mikel Arteta, and you need to go and sit in front of Edu, the Kroenkes, whoever it may be, Vinay Venkatesham, and persuade them that what you have done this season is worthy of them backing you big time in the summer and allowing you to stay in the job. You're Mikel Arteta. What are the things that you would point to and say, this is my evidence as to why we are moving in the right direction? And you can say nothing. You can say there is none. But if you were Mikel Arteta, what would you be looking at and highlighting as evidence of the progress?
Yeah, I suppose it's a tough question. I guess there's always a benefit to some kind of longevity. It's just how hard you have to look to find it. I think let's take that one at a time there. I think if Arsenal were to go out tomorrow, I think it'd be a really poor result, just given I think it's a glamour tie on paper But in reality, Arsenal are not the team they were 10 years ago, and Benfica are really struggling. I mean, they've been beaten once, nearly twice by Rangers this season, and they've got fans protesting at their training ground this week at how poor they've been. So it's an opportunity where when the draw come out, you're wincing and you think, well, this is a hard draw. But even watching what Arsenal did to them last week, even in a neutral venue, granted, but away from home, Arsenal are the better side. So I'm expecting Arsenal to get this job done. And again, I know there's different stadiums at play and all that sort of stuff, but you're expecting to go through, I think. So it'd be disappointing. So if I'm Arteta now, and I've got to sit in front of the board, I think what's happened with Arteta, for whatever reason, whether there's other managers going through rough patches, and there are, obviously Mourinho, Lampard,
even Jurgen Klopp.
Klopp, yeah. There's other teams who had slightly higher expectations going into the season who are struggling, like Liverpool. I think it's almost slightly gone under the radar now, quite how poor a season Arteta's having. So I think he's getting away with a bit in that respect. I think the pressure's got off him a little bit and people are looking elsewhere for their column inches. But if I was Arteta, I'd be saying this. He knows the club haven't got an awful lot of money. So he can go in there and pitch as to how he'd spend the money they've got. And what Arteta can offer, I think, he can demonstrate three things, which if you combine those three things together, you get a decent side and a fair crack of a continuous improvement. He's convinced Aubameyang to stay, who's a big top player with other European clubs looking at him. So he's demonstrated that. Forget that Aubameyang has had the best season. He's been able to convince a senior player to stay at the club. So that's a positive. I'd be saying that if I was Mikel Arteta. I'd also be demonstrating some of the youngsters that have improved under his watch. Now, I've always rated Saka, but Saka's been given minutes and is now an established first-team player in a consistent position. So he's done that. You've seen Emil Smith-Rowe break into the side. He can point to the fact that he has relatively quietly got rid of some deadwood. There's not been that much noise around it. If you look at other clubs who have frozen out big players, there's a lot of noise. Arteta's managed to do that relatively quietly, so I'd be looking at that as a positive. And then finally, I think he could sit there and say, actually, the players I have bought have been good signings. They have added something. And I think if you add those three things together and get the balance right, I think there's a case for him getting a bit of backing in the summer. Thomas Partey is a good addition to the squad. Some of the players who come in last season, albeit he didn't sign them necessarily, but he's been able to get good minutes out of them. Ceballos has improved in the last 6 months compared to the 12 months before. Martinelli's been given some game time as well. So I think if you add those things up and get the balance of that right, he can make a case to justify being 10th this season or 9th or 7th, wherever they may end up.
Cool. Before I come over to you, Alavi, let's say a big hello to everybody in the live chat. I hope you're all well. Don't forget, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button nice and early so you don't forget. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new as well. And Moss52, one of our new viewers, says, I'm new here. What teams do Simon and Dan support? Dan supports that lot down the road. We're not even going to name them. And Alavi is a neutral Man United fan. Go on, over to you, man.
I was going to say Barnet, but they're going to get relegated again, so I'll just pick Atletico Madrid. I mean, before Dan joined the other week, I sort of gave the Arteta praise, so I won't repeat any of that. What I would say about tomorrow is that it plays into Arsenal's hands in the sense that the result means Benfica have to go at Arsenal, and that's not how they play. And I think that will help Arsenal a lot. I think if Arteta does something like, I don't know, rush Thomas Partey back from injury, or makes another mistake that almost highlights his lack of experience as a top manager or a manager at that level, then he's going to have a harder case to present to the board. I think he can go to the board, going back to your question, Harry, I think he can go to the board and present that he's, managed to implement a style of play in the last month or two. I think he's got away with the City one. I think he bottled it, but I think he's got away with it because he could almost just write it off, A, as Manchester City, and B, that he's rested, 3-4 players maybe?
Made
just
5
to make
changes.
Okay, but he rested, yeah. You'd look at that side and think that there were 3 or 4 that really would normally start, right? So none of that is justified if he goes and loses tomorrow. That's the big issue. And I know people on this channel like to give Jose Mourinho a stick, but one thing he did do really well a few seasons ago was he very early noticed when Man United needed to prioritise the Europa League. And you saw that in his team selections. But he was justified because he won it. And I think, Arsenal, Benfica aren't what they're cracked up to be. But if I was Arteta and I managed to win the Europa League and finish 7th or 8th, I would see that as a successful season. I would look to them and ask for money to replace Bellerin because he's going, whether that's someone like Lamptey from Brighton, someone like who's the Inter Milan, Hakimi, who's it? How much would he cost from Inter Milan? Like 40 odd million.
It's a hard one with Hakimi
Max
because
Aarons,
they only just signed
maybe.
him. They only just.
But
I know
he's got a 40 million release clause. I think he'll go for 40 million.
I don't know if he's got a release clause, has he?
As in, sorry, that's the wrong say. They've said they'd probably let him go for around 40 million. Is the rumor? Not the Suarez +1, but they've said they'd let him go for 40. If you've got Odegaard and Ceballos going back off loan, then I'd probably I'd present to them maybe the Ivorian Coast player. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name, like Kasunu. I'd probably present that to him as an option. That's 10 million. So I would present these as options. I would present a target man because I look at Giroud yesterday. I look at how well Lukaku's doing. And I would have to present these to the board as you need to give me this backing because I'm losing X amount of players.
I'm the board
yeah.
now. And you're coming to me and you're telling me I need a target man, I need another right back, etc., etc.
Yeah.
What can you point to from what's happened this season to persuade me that I should be giving you those things? That's listen. I back Mikel Arteta, right? I've had a lot of stick over the last few weeks for backing Mikel Arteta, and I think there has been some progress, right? I admit that you sometimes have to look a little bit deeper to find it. And sometimes you have to dig to get to those points whereby you can say he's done a decent job. But if you're him, Alavi, what are you pointing to and saying, well, I've done this, I've done that?
I would point to the fact that I've signed 9 players, extended 5 contracts, and out of that 14, 11 have actually probably been quite good. I'd then point to the last 2 months and say there's a start of player emerging, and I'd point to the end of the season and say, look, I finished 8th and got us into the Champions League via the Europa. If he can do those things, 2 of which he's already done.
But what the original thing was, if we go out of the Europa League, what does he do then?
See, that's the problem because he then doesn't get the transfer money, does he? He doesn't get you're out of Europe. But the keys to him, it all hinges on the Europa. But I think those people like Edu, they must know enough to be able to scratch between the surface and see that what he's done in the last month or 2 is progress. And I think I saw 5-10 minutes of your show earlier, and I forgot the lady's name, but she made a great point. She was like, why does he need 3 years? Why does he get 3 years and another manager doesn't get 3 years just because he's young and inexperienced? And that's a great point. So he's really going to have to go and show where he's lost in the last, 2-3 months has probably been unavoidable in a lot of cases. He's learnt from the mistakes. He's learnt how to deal with personal situations. He's learnt to deal with the media.
I think the problem where fans lose patience is when managers or other fans with different points of view kind of present progress, but you can't really see it. Or it's progress against what? Is being 9th progress because 2 months ago you were 14th? That's not really progress. That's just, recovering a position that was completely untenable to begin with.
He'll say, look what I've done with Saka, look what I've done with Smith Rowe, look what I've done with...
Yeah, so there's a few points there that I picked out at the beginning, and there are some positives you can find. I think with Arteta, I think, it's it's not for Arsenal fans to have to be patient because he's young, is it? You know, if
Yeah.
you're an Arsenal fan, you have to decide yourself how much time you want to invest in this rookie to learn his trade, and is it moving fast enough? I think when the dust is settled at the end of the season, Arsenal are going to look back at this season, and if they're honest, they'll say it's been poor if they don't get to, you know, you want to get knocked out of the Europa League by a good side, and then you can probably take it on the chin. You know, if an AC Milan turn up and play well, even though it would hurt maybe a Manchester United or Roma in the competition, if you go out to a team you should beat, that's going to hurt a little bit. But there are some positives there.
Okay, flicking it back on you, Harry, can he point to this as just this is an exceptional season with extenuated circumstances, all but Pep Guardiola seems to have suffered from them? You can see progress in the odd area. Surely it can be a rite of season for about 12, 13 clubs in the league.
Yeah, I see it like that. I do see it as a very difficult season. I do see it as a season that's presented many challenges, not just on the field, but off of it.
Yeah.
I do see it as a season in which transition was inevitable, and as such a loss of form and an inconsistency was always going to come as a consequence of that. So I see it like that. But my worry is that the larger population of the Arsenal fan base don't see it like that. And, you know, we've seen over the years, the Arsenal fan base can turn very quickly. And I don't know. I mean, when you look at the way Unai Emery was sacked, right? I think he was sacked because it got to a point where the fans stopped believing and the club kind of bought into that. Because results-wise, yes, he started the second season poorly. But in terms of where we were as a team, in his full season, we were 1 point off of the top four. And we lost in the Europa League final. So it was more than results that made them sack Unai Emery, right? It was a wider picture. It was a wider view that led them to that thing with Unai Emery. It wasn't just results. It was probably not sure where this is really going. Didn't really want this guy as our first choice in the first place. Got him in on a short-term contract anyway. We can cut our losses now and move him on. But with Mikel Arteta, it's different because the club have clearly invested in this guy, and I think they are willing to give him the time, and so we probably have to as well as fans. But as Dan said, as fans, do you want to sit there and give someone time? Like, you know, we don't owe Mikel Arteta anything to have to sit here and allow him to take 2 or 3 or 4 seasons to get to where he needs to go. I still back him, and as Tazell says in the chat, he's staying regardless. I can't see a man.
That's the thing. He can lose 10-0 tomorrow. It doesn't matter.
So why then, if that is the case, which I believe it is, then we just have to get behind him, don't we?
I think Arsenal board aren't the type of board, in my view, that want to sack managers. They don't want to sack managers. They didn't want to sack Wenger, quite clearly. Wenger stayed far longer than he should have, based on a number of factors. Emery, I believe, was sacked because of fan pressure, and Emery didn't have a chance, because the problem with Emery, when you're following a club legend, whether it's Mourinho following Pochettino, completely different style, completely different characters, that baggage of that, whether it's Moyes following Ferguson, or various other examples you can pick on in football history, from the outset, 50% of the fans don't want Emery there to begin with. So the first sign of trouble, those fans speak up, and then you've only got to convert another 10% of fans, and you've got a majority.
Yeah,
then
so
you throw in a few.
Newcastle, isn't it? Like when he
Yeah,
started.
it doesn't take much, because from a starting point, with Arteta, that starting point is now completely reset. There was 70% of the fans who wanted Emery out. So that means there's 70% of the fans who are happy that you got a new manager. It takes a lot longer to swing that tide. So for Arsenal as a board, they don't want to sack Arteta. They don't want to sack managers. They want stability. They've probably acknowledged that the Emery appointment didn't really fit their model. They've brought in a manager who they believe does. A manager with no credentials or qualifications whatsoever to have a job that big, but they've deliberately brought someone in who fits their mould. They are going to stick with Arteta for as long as the fans let them. That's the point. So how much does it mean to the fans to be in the Champions League? Probably quite a lot. So it comes down to what you're going to tolerate. And if you get knocked out by Benfica tomorrow, or heaven forbid you got knocked out by Tottenham, imagine that. Then the noise is going to be too much. But aside from that, I think Arteta will get another season at the club.
Yeah, I think he will as well. And we'll move on from this. But if Arsenal were to get knocked out in the semi-finals against a Manchester United or a team that people fancy to go on and win the competition, you don't like it, you don't accept it, but you can live with it, right? But you can't live with going out in the round of 32 to a side that you.
It's also what I said last week about where can you pinpoint his mistakes. So I said the Wolves game, it's completely out of his hands, and where can you just actually pinpoint his lack of experience? So tomorrow, if he plays Partey as an example, right? He's made that mistake before, hasn't he? A couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Rushing him back. So if he does that again, then it shows that he's maybe not learning where he needs to. But we'll see.
The problem is it adds up, doesn't it? So if you play well and go out, you might get away with that. But if you're halfway through a season where you've lost so many games already because you've played poorly or picked the wrong team or some naive tactics like they were earlier in the season with Arteta, it's just the fact that you've played well just gets forgotten, and it just adds onto the pile and adds onto the pile. And, I think he's lucky. The pressure's off him, I think, in terms of what he has to achieve. I think he's got a board. I think he feels comfortable. You can tell by the way he's speaking, even when he was under pressure. He didn't make any noise like he was worried or anything like that. So I think he'll know what to say to get himself another year, I think. He knows how to talk and present himself. So I think Arteta backers, I don't think they're going to have to worry too much, to be honest.
Yeah, and I agree with Craig here from Same Old Arsenal. Make sure, if you haven't already, you head over to the Same Old Arsenal. Give them a subscribe. Make sure you like the podcast as well. And you can also become a member now of the Same Old Arsenal. So head over there and check it out. Craig and Lee did a brilliant show earlier on today. I've watched some of it, but I need to catch up on the rest. So make sure you head over and check that out. He says, but hang on, if the medical team clear Partey to play, then he can only take their advice. I think he's absolutely right there.
Nah, mate, you don't recover from that sort of injury that quickly. You don't recover from that injury.
No, I agree.
And
Listen,
not in
a
way. You got to remember, it's not like an Ozil, or I don't want to pick on him, but the way Thomas Partey plays, all that will happen is he will get injured again because of the way he plays is conducive to getting injured again. No, forget.
I agree with what you're saying.
That's ridiculous.
I agree with what you're saying. I don't think that you can recover from a hamstring problem as quickly as Thomas Partey has this time. And I would not play him tomorrow, for the record. But what I will say is your medical team do have a responsibility as well. If your medical team are clearing somebody, they're the experts, remember? They're the medical people. That's what they're at the club to do.
Cleared every week.
Yeah, but you've been to a doctor's. There's nothing binary with these people.
Exactly.
They're all doom and gloom merchants anyway. They will say to Mikel Arteta, "Hey, look, he's got a 90% chance of getting through 65 minutes. Exactly. How important is that 65 minutes to you?" Then that's the manager's decision as to whether he wants to take that risk. A medical team isn't going to say
they don't come with a green and a red card, mate,
You know a quite high profile. You know a high profile physio.
I do, yeah.
And I know a different, reasonably high profile physio, but not as high. I won't name either of the names because it's not fair to do so.
Yeah, don't.
But they're not going in there. You get the doom and gloom merchants that say he absolutely can't play. It's unsafe. It's ridiculous. He's half concussed. You can't do that. But when it comes to muscular injuries, it will be about risk levels, and it will say, well, you might be able to get him through this game, but he can't play 3. Then that's the manager's choice.
But we're not
privy to those
conversations, right? So
you flip it on its head. Like, I don't want to talk about Tottenham too much, but Harry Kane in the Champions League final is the prime example. It's the Champions League final. Now, do you want to play him? Yes, please. It's Burnley at home. Do you want to play him? Or maybe we'll rest him. It's down to the manager to decide how big an occasion it is to take that risk.
Agreed, but when the occasion is a big one and the manager is going one way, it is, if that's not the right decision, it's the medical professional's responsibility to at least relay the information that there is a risk here. Now, we don't know about that, whether that information's been relayed. We don't know about what goes on in those conversations. What we do know is when he rushed him back the last time, he had passed 3 fitness tests in the lead up to that game. So as far as Mikel Arteta is concerned, the guy's passed 3 fitness tests. So I've got I understand where you're coming from. And me personally, I wouldn't pick him tomorrow because and I might be made
the style
to
of
eat these
Benfica
words.
as well. He's not.
I don't think we'll need him. Genuinely, I think Arsenal have enough without.
Is not. Yeah.
I think Arsenal have enough without Thomas Partey to get past Benfica. So for me, I wouldn't take the risk. But I do agree with Craig when he says that there is an element of it is down to the medical team. Otherwise, what the fuck do you hire them for? What are they being paid to do if they're not there to advise you on risk, on conditioning? That they are experts. That's what they're there for. So I think you're giving them a free ride. They're physios who are being paid a fucking lot of money by the football club to advise the manager and to take care of those players. And ultimately, you can't just shift all the blame off of them and say it's always the manager's fault, because there must have been some dialogue there at some point. But anyway, let's move on from that. Let's talk a little bit about this week's Champions League football. Obviously, Chelsea getting a really, really good result in Madrid, but of course the game took place in Bucharest. Atletico really struggling with injuries at the moment, but Dan De Luca, what a fucking goal that was from Olivier Giroud.
He does pull out the odd cracker, to be fair to him. He does pull out the odd cracker. He feels like he's getting better. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because he's playing less or what it is, but it feels like he's getting better and better since he left Arsenal. I think his last 2 seasons were probably his most productive, and then for some reason he wasn't kept on. And I remember the goal he scored in the FA Cup final for Chelsea. It was absolutely outstanding. He does pull out the odd superb goal, and he seems to just, I don't know, he seems to never age. He's a really good player, really useful player, and it's pleasing to see actually Thomas Tuchel come over and actually find a space for him in the team, because he didn't strike me as a sort of manager who would take to Giroud, especially with the attacking talents at his disposal. But he seems to have found a good balance there. He's got Chelsea ticking quite quickly, and it was a fantastic goal. It must. When a player leaves the club and then carries on doing good things elsewhere, it's obviously a kick in the bollocks, and it's happened to all of us. But every time he scores a goal like that, you must sort of wince.
I'll say it now. I'd rather him up top than Lacazette. I mean it. I'll get stick for that, but I genuinely do mean it. I think he brings more to the overall game than Lacazette does. I don't feel like the Lacazette signing has proven to be good value given what we paid for him.
Brings the female fans over like me, doesn't he?
Well, there you go. But Alavi, Atletico, I've touched on the fact that they were really hit with injury, but I was really disappointed by them, man. I expected a lot more.
I was WhatsApping the group before the game, just saying they've got a really, really bad run of injuries. And the thing with Atletico is they're doing really well in La Liga. They've stumbled a bit recently but they've built up a lead, so it still looks as though they're doing really well. But actually, it's because Real Madrid and Barcelona have also been quite poor. They've switched from 3 at the back to 4 at the back. I actually think 4 at the back suits them more, but it just didn't work yesterday. I don't think they've got that strength in depth. Atletico, I think they're one of those sides where, unlike Barca and Madrid still, when they lose that first 11, they're not quite the force they were. But actually, I think it's probably disingenuous not giving Tuchel the credit that he deserves. For me, I've said this first game he came in, and he selected that lineup, and I thought that's brilliant man management. You know, he's just selected a few players that Lampard deliberately throws out. You know, and for me, he's someone who can play an adaptive formation, looking at the task in hand, but he'll still stick to his fundamentals. And I've never honestly been impressed with a manager for this quickly in the Premier League. I know you really like Bielsa, but I can't remember the manager that's impressed me this much. I think he's meticulous. I think, if you think about what people used to think under Frank Lampard, it was, they're very erratic. That's already been forgotten. So for him to do that, for him to come in and already have that stringent sort of set up at the back where he plays that he plays like a 3-4-2-1, and that those two inside forwards I feel create like a box shape almost that allow one of the two wing backs, normally Callum Hudson-Odoi, who's a bit more forward thinking, to actually go down and create that space down the wing. And I think that when you look at what he's done, it's very easy to pinpoint that they've done so badly under Lampard that all he's done is just win games that they should have won. But actually, again, a bit like Arteta, when you scratch beneath the surface, he's done really, really, really well. And I think he's going to go on to be one of the most young, talented managers that the Premier League's seen. And you look at the other sides in the Champions League, and I don't think Chelsea will win it. I think it's going to be between City and Bayern. But you look at the other sides in the Champions League, and if he can get a result in the second leg, there's no reason why they can't carry on and go a bit further in competition.
Cool. De Luca, let's move on and touch on Manchester City. Good result for them.
Yeah.
Away from home technically away from home, against Borussia Mönchengladbach. We were discussing in our WhatsApp group earlier on what game we should watch tonight. And I want to pick you up on a comment where you said, City bore me to death. The floor is yours, mate. Have a rant. I want to know why City bore you to death, because I find them entertaining. I enjoy their football. I really do. And I'm interested to know why you find them boring, I guess.
It's not their fault they're boring. They're winning football matches. But I don't need to see... When I play football with my son, who's 6, in the garden, we stand 5 yards apart and pass the ball to each other. I've seen it all day. I don't need to see 864 passes where, and it's not their fault, where the other team are too scared to even go and press them in the centre circle because 3 or 4 passes, they're in trouble again. And I find so many of their games are like, you've only got to look at the Arsenal game the other day. They've scored after 2 minutes, and there's 88 minutes of, well, we know what the result is now, and Man City still created a few more chances in the first 20 minutes, but then it was a bit like watching a cat toying with a mouse, and you think, well, why do I want to watch that when I can watch a game on the other side where you've got Atlanta and Real Madrid who are going to knock 7 bells out of each other? Now, I will apologise a little bit because I watched most of the Atlanta-Real Madrid game, and that was shit. So that was a bad choice. But as an example, as I was flicking back through the channel... I
thought it was all right.
It was all right. But there was one instance, it was about 70 minutes into the game, and the ball was played forward by a Manchester City player. They're already 2-0 up now. And from halfway in the attacking half, a player launched an 80-yard ball back to Ederson. I'm like, why do I want to see that? Do
you not think that some of that is because City have gone out to and no disrespect to Spurs, but they've gone out, well, actually it is. It's one of those things we say, I'm not going to say something racist, I mean, you do. So no disrespect to Spurs, but they've gone out to sides that they probably shouldn't have in the last 3 years, right? So off the top of my head, Spurs, Lyon, one more, maybe Monaco.
Liverpool,
right?
Monaco. Those 4 teams.
I think it was Monaco, yeah.
Yeah, it was Monaco, Liverpool.
So they have to just be, they've got that free-flowing football still. And, I don't rate Mick Richards as part of it, but he did make a point. He said, actually, they played nicer football last season, which is true to a point. They really did.
They did.
And what he's saying is that they've tightened up defensively. And he says, let Bayern Munich be the team that can go and have, I don't know, Costa, Talisa, who else was out yesterday? Who's the ex-Arsenal player? A couple more. Have all these players out. Have a 17-year-old player coming through. Have the irrepressible Lewandowski. You have the attention on Bayern Munich, right? And let Man City actually just be that solid defensive team.
I'm not sure.
Have that fear factor still.
But this is my point, and this, you know me, I make outlandish predictions, and they don't blow up in my face very often because I'm normally right, but they have the potential to, right? Manchester City, I don't believe can win this Champions League. I'm not convinced how solid they are defensively. I don't think they have to defend. And the reason why you see these strange results that they have in the later stages of this competition is because when it gets to the point that they meet a team who have progressed to that same sort of level, they get beat because they haven't had to defend at any point. Their defense isn't really tested. It's their defense. All the defending is done in midfield. Like very rarely. So there was a stat in the game today, and I said I didn't watch it, and only watched about 10 minutes, and I've absorbed a lot of information. But basically, in the last 2 Champions League games, Ederson hasn't even made a save. He hasn't had to. So when they play Bayern Munich, they will get battered. I will go as far as to say PSG will beat them if they play them.
But this is my point. Okay, all right, you've added PSG. My point is, and it's a bit like the Premier League, and it's not about who is the least bad. Bayern Munich, who the City, you really think they have trouble with anyone else? You think, based on tonight, if you think that, I don't know, Rodrigo and Jesus are the replacements for Ronaldo in this Madrid team, and you look at they don't have backup for Casemiro and Modric. You know, Isco, Asensio have been 2 of my favourite players, and they haven't looked great this year. I don't think they'd have any trouble with Madrid. I don't think they'd have any trouble with Barcelona. I think they'll beat PSG. So you can only. I think there's less team. This is what I mean. So
there's less competition. There's less strong competition out there than there was
ever. I'd say for the last 10.
Yeah, and that's because La Liga is at its weakest.
So why can't City go and win the Champions League more than any other time this season?
The thing is, though, there's an argument that says that City have actually learnt how to maybe, people say that Pep Guardiola couldn't reinvent a side, and actually what they do now is they get to 2-0 and they do take their foot off the gas a little bit.
Yeah, they don't try and win 5-0.
Yeah, their way of taking their foot off the gas is to keep the ball. And like you pointed out, Didio, that might involve an 80-yard pass back to the goalkeeper. Yeah. And I get what you mean. But for me, other teams take the sting out of matches by slowing the pace right down, by wasting time at every opportunity. Manchester City, I think, take the sting out of games by keeping the football. And I think that's admirable. I really like that.
The thing is, it's not criticism of them. It's just me saying I don't want to watch it because it's boring. And that's a different thing. So people call the Italian national team boring, and I used to take offence at it. In the end, I took it as a compliment. People say that a lot of it's all about perception and a perceived style. People call the Italian team who won the World Cup in 2006 boring. In actual fact, they scored more goals than Spain scored in 2010. Like, no one realises that, and I had to tell people that, and they look at me like I'm weird.
I don't know how you got that in from Man City's Champions League.
Because I'm talking about. But
you are going to get in whatever we were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm trying to make a correlation where people don't like. A lot of people didn't like watching Serie A in the mid 2000s, because it was boring to them. And it's like, well, actually, it's not boring. I'm not criticising what they're doing. I just would rather watch a different game.
Okay, but there is a skill in whoever it was you'll put, and I'm assuming you're not referring to the Cancelo who won at the weekend, because that was a mistake. I'm sure Harry remembers it. That was a complete mistake to Ederson. But there is still a skill, Dan, in a defender or a holding midfielder being able to pick that up 60 yards, being able to ping it to Ederson with risk-free, knowing that Ederson will take one touch and be able to ping it back to another. Like, there is still a skill involved in that and trust and touch that. He's amazing, just like the Italian. It might not be as obvious, but
but the question
in that.
The question is why? Why? What was
because they've learned from their past mistakes. Because every time they've gone out of the Champions League before, it's because they've done something stupid.
Yeah, they've letting a horrendous amount of goals, I guess it's just. I find them boring at this stage. It's no different to people.
Real Madrid are boring at this stage. They play defensive football.
That's what I'm saying. But it's no different to people say they don't want to watch international friendlies. I know the result. I know Man City are going to win. I know the other team aren't going to compete, and I know that 85 minutes of the game is going to be just
boring,
uninspiring rubbish.
Let's move on. Let's quickly touch on. I want to quickly talk about Marcelo Bielsa, and I'll just give a little bit on this because this is something that I want to talk about, and then we'll move on to something else because just conscious of time as well. Still got a fair bit to get through. I just want to give a shout out to Leeds and to Marcelo Bielsa, because I hear a lot of people saying he's overrated. You know, his football is overrated. All they do, you know, they score goals, but they create a shitload of chances. This guy took over Leeds United 3 years ago, mid-table in the Championship. And in my opinion, with their win yesterday, they pretty much guaranteed their safety in the Premier League mathematically. I mean, you know, they were never going to go down, but, you know, that was a big step again, getting closer to that sort of golden sort of mark in the table. And I just think that somebody like Marcelo Bielsa has been a breath of fresh air, man. He's come in. I think 9 of the players that started last night were with him in the Championship. And this guy has come into the Premier League and achieved what he is going to achieve without ever veering away from his principles, without going down the whole Sam Allardyce route, without going down the whole Steve Bruce route of playing negative, boring shit football. He's another one who's proven that those kind of managers are obsolete for me. And I think we should be praising managers who come into the division with bollocks and play football like that. Because ultimately, I would rather watch Leeds United at the weekend than most teams in this division. They're above Arsenal, as some of you have pointed out in the chat. And I just think they deserve a lot of praise for that. And
Yeah.
you know, traditionally over the years, I haven't liked Leeds United for obvious reasons. I don't think many people in the world like Leeds United, but I think that now they're becoming a club that people look at, and particularly under Marcelo Bielsa, and admire. And I think he deserves a hell of a lot of credit for that.
I'll say one sentence. It's the same one I said on the pre-season pod. Just one sentence about him. He is, or they are, the most dependent on a manager of any team in the league. I.e., the influence the manager has on the team is bigger in terms of a percentage, or however you want to measure it, compared to any other team. I.e., if he left, where their league position would alter. That's just my view on him. By
Luca,
a mile as well.
Anything you want to just quickly add before I move on?
Yeah,
It's
one question really, and it links into the last topic, where I felt the shark circling a little bit. Would you rather watch Leeds or Man City?
Leeds. For entertainment.
That's why I don't like watching Man City.
That's because of a standard City of...
We're admiring, rightly so, we're admiring the style Leeds play. The reason I roll my eyes about Leeds is more because I think over the years, there are so many teams at the bottom who don't even try to win, that when you see a team coming like Leeds have, like you say, it's a breath of fresh air. And it's very admirable.
That Leeds weren't coming in as like relegation favourites, though. People forget, like, they weren't, let's be honest.
Yeah, but that's a credit to Marcelo Bielsa.
Yeah, it is. But let's not pretend that they were going to finish 20th and he's got them like 9th.
No, nobody said that. You know.
But the fact is there's been so long where 2 of the 3 teams who come up,
correct,
just play absolute dross.
Yeah.
Actually, you like the fact that they're coming up having a go, and they're getting enough points to justify it as well.
Yeah,
whereas in the past,
have gone up and played and tried to have a go, have that Bournemouth like that.
Yeah, Norwich last year.
Yeah.
Cool. That brings us to the end of our Marcelo Bielsa Love Fest. Let's quickly touch on 1 point from the relegation battle, and then we'll go on to the prediction section. Alavi, you asked me the question last week whether I thought Fulham could survive. And I'll tell you what, after the last couple of weeks of results, first of all, you know, Fulham have done brilliantly to stay and sort of hanging in there and in the fight. But could Newcastle United sleepwalk into relegation this season?
I think it. So the reason I said this, it wasn't based on any logic at all, by the way. But a couple of weeks ago, I said I've got a feeling Fulham will stay up, and it was purely based on the fact that their fixtures looked like they were winnable, and they were. You know how you go back to the Arteta thing, and you look at, okay, they haven't won, or they've lost, but there's something in there that makes me think they could win the next game. And that's what I got with Fulham. That's why I thought they'd win at the weekend. That's why I think they'll win this weekend. The only issue is they've now got March, where I think they've got Spurs, so that's another relegation fight, Liverpool and City. So they've actually got the hardest games, really, between the other relegation candidates. So even though there's just something that makes me think they'll stay up. However, I actually think, contrary to what you've said about Newcastle, it might be Brighton that get dragged in there for some reason. I think they could fall victim to how going back to Dan's example of Norwich, how they end up playing. So when we first looked at it, it was 7 points, and you guys maybe thought it was too much, but I thought the odds were just 7 points is in this league. It's very quick to make up.
It is indeed. Alavi, I'm going to stick with you, mate, and give us the results from last week's predictions.
Fuck, have I got them? No.
Give us, yeah. I've got it. Do you want me to bring it up on the screen?
I've got it. So the results from last week. So in terms of the actual game week, Dan DeLuca won it, got 10 points. He was fair play. He didn't fancy Chelsea, only won. And not only that, he actually got a perfect score. Fans got 9 points. They did well with 2 perfect scores. I was third with 7 points. Again, I benefited from, for some reason, picking Wolves to win it and getting the perfect score. That's twice in a row. And Harry, I don't know what you're playing at as host, but 5 points there with just the Leicester perfect.
Well,
too many biased predictions, I think.
I do my predictions on the show, right? So I don't sit there and study everything like you do.
Need to be thinking before. So I think in terms of the league table, we've got the fans winning annoyingly on 21 points, DDO overtaking me going to 17, myself on 15, and Harry on 11. So the fans are winning out at the moment. So fair play to the gentleman who, well, both guys who picked it the week before.
We need a volunteer in the live chat. We need one of you to put your hand up and say that you're going to take on the predictions for the fans on this week's edition of the Social Club. So let me know in the chat if you want to do it. I'm going to bring up on the screen Alavi and DDL's predictions for this week so far. I still haven't done mine, so I promise I'll give them to you. I promise I'll give them to you on the show.
There's a cut-off point
tomorrow. Yeah, I'll drop them tomorrow. I'll drop them to you tomorrow. So I'm going to just quickly have a look through what you guys have got. You've both gone for Man City to beat West Ham United. DDL, you've gone for West Brom to get a win over Brighton. What's the thinking behind that?
Yeah, that's not a bad chance.
Tight game, that one.
Yeah, I think West Brom played well last week. They were unlucky. And Brighton always seem to play well and not win. And it just feels like, West Brom are due a result. There's been a couple of better performances against Manchester United. I know they got a point in that game in the end. And last week at Burnley. And I just think they're playing well enough to steal 3 points in that one.
Cool. You've highlighted Newcastle 1, Wolves 0. So I'm assuming that's your gem. It's definitely going to be a low-scoring one, I'd say, that one. Why have you gone for that one as your gem?
Again, Wolves are struggling to score goals. They're really low scorers. Lots of games they've drawn blanks. I thought they were quite poor the other night as well in the game they won. Newcastle, St. Maximin playing well. Joe Linton, I know he went off injured. Hopefully he's fit. Otherwise, I may be in trouble there. But again, it's another one where I think Newcastle are just gonna nick that one.
Cool.
Low scoring bore fest.
Yeah.
Everything else looks pretty interesting. DDL's gone for Arsenal to draw 2-2 at Leicester. Alavi's gone for a Leicester win. Not that I'm surprised. Both of you gone with Spurs to beat Burnley. A draw. Alavi's played it safe with Chelsea Man United 1-1 draw. DDL
it's 1-1, isn't it? I mean, if in doubt, just 1-1.
Just 1-1 games. Yeah. You both got Liverpool to win. Everton, Southampton. Alavi's got that as a draw, and DeLuca's got that as a 1-0 to Everton. Right, we're going to go with, I think Liam responded first in the chat. So, Liam, you can do the predictions for the fans this week. So what you need to do, Liam, is you need to chuck them into the live chat now, one by one, and you need to put what game it is you're referring to, right? So you need to put Man City 1, West Ham 3, or whatever, because that way Alavi can pick them out of the chat and note them down so he can add it to the table. I'll be giving you guys my predictions on one of tomorrow's shows, I promise, because I've just been so flipping busy. I haven't had a chance to do them. And
I've just realised I picked 7 teams not to score there. That's stupid, the eye. 7 big zeros think
there's no going back, DDL. Once it's on the sheet, it's official, mate. So I'm going to get mine into you guys tomorrow. So stay tuned for that as well in the live chat. So Liam, fire away with those. What else did we need to discuss? Quick reminder: podcast is sponsored by manscaped.com. So as I said earlier on, if your Forbidden Forest is in need of a trim, if you need to get it looking as sharp and as luscious as the Emirates Stadium pitch, hopefully not as green though, then head over to manscaped.com, enter our discount code, which is 90min20, and you get 20% off of your order as well as free shipping. Now, when you get the lawnmower, right, which is the best sort of trimmer that you can get from Manscaped, I've got the lawnmower 2.0. Once you get the lawnmower, once you sign up, you even get a replacement blade come through after a few months in the post. It's unbelievable. It's brilliant stuff. You get ball wipes, you get ball deodorant, you get the lot. So make sure you head over to Manscaped and check it out. Also, if you're interested in supporting the podcast, in supporting us to bring you more content and getting access to our Discord server as well as a number of other benefits, then click on the link in the description and you can see the 3 tiers available. You can choose which, if any, of those appeal to you. We're coming close to a very big milestone on our membership, so I'm really looking forward to that happens, and we'll do a special giveaway when it does. What else was I going to say? That's pretty much it, I think. Liam, are those predictions coming, mate?
Please tell me you advertised Manscaped when you had that lovely lady on your show a few hours ago.
I did.
Oh,
and I said it right. I went through the whole pitch thing, and then I was like, I think I actually said it on the show. I went, so embarrassed I've just had to do that in front of Jess.
Was that her name, Jess? I thought she was actually quite good, you know.
She's brilliant. And
I think she was like quite what's the word? Like quite articulate. Like
she's
the way
brilliant.
Really
and I would advise anyone that's into Arsenal, wants to follow some Arsenal content, to get over there. And
was it from abroad though? Was it not? I couldn't.
Yeah, she's based in the States. She's based in the States.
Ah, okay.
She's based in the States, California, I think. Lovely place.
Okay. I thought she made some really good points.
She did. She wouldn't be on the Chronicles of a Gooner if she didn't. She's brilliant.
Nah.
Fantastic.
Well, me and Dan are. So.
You let us on.
Well,
yeah, I was going to say.
Liam, I'm still not getting these predictions, but Jashar's coming up with some predictions. Do we want to go with Jashar's? Let us know in the chat, because he did win for you guys last week. Well, he's got you still in the lead. So we're going to go with Jashar's, because we're not going to sit here all night and Liam's are not coming through.
Does no one fancy my Everton-Southampton draw?
I think that's quite a generous gem, to be fair.
Generous gem.
Hold on.
Mate, look at the odds.
Hold on. Do we go with Jashar's or do we go with Edward, who's just put all the games in at once in one comment?
Well then.
Edward, for efficiency. Go with Edward.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, but got to go with Edward. Big day tomorrow. Busy day tomorrow.
Anyone who goes by their full name as well and just doesn't call themselves Ed. I like that.
How do you know his full name? His full name might be Eduardo. And
he's taking the O off.
Yeah. Don't know, do you?
Oh, brilliant stuff. Cool. That's those are the
Right,
predictions. Edward, thank you so much, mate, for your predictions. Thank you to everyone in the live chat as well. Don't forget, plenty of content coming your way tomorrow.
Get Eddie's gem.
Oh yeah, Edward.
That's a great point.
What's your gem, mate? What's your gem prediction? You can get double points for that. It can't be something. Yeah, it's got to be something obvious. A bit outside the box. It can't be, Manchester City to beat West Ham, for example, because Manchester City beat everyone.
He has gone Newcastle to draw with Wolves. I suppose that's not.
He says, "Can confirm my full name is Edward."
No.
Right, we're just waiting on the gem, and then we can leave it there. We can sign out for the evening. Gem Spurs Burnley. He's gone with. What did he put?
Sorry, shit. He's put.
Burnley 1-0. Love that.
Yeah, fair enough, mate.
Good lad. Good lad.
Double gem for that. That's brilliant.
Proper predictions. Proper predictions. That's what we like.
The kind of predictions we like to have right here on the Chronicles of a Gooner. Chris Wood header or something. That's what you want to see. That's what you want to see. Was you going to say something?
He's gone Sheffield United. They've gone Sheffield United and Liverpool to draw.
Interesting.
Everton to win. So everyone's gone Everton win, bar me.
Well, the gem is Spurs Burnley. Right, we're going to leave it there.
Yeah.
We're going to be back very, very soon with more. Plenty to come your way tomorrow as we continue our build-up and coverage of the big game in Athens. Arsenal having to travel 800 miles further for their home tie than they did for the away one. How the fuck do you work that one out? Who knows? Anyway, we'll see you guys soon. Until next time, take care.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.